Hello, everyone in the BeADisciple.com tribe. We're so excited to be with you. I'm here today with ministry consultant, pastor, course creator, one of the most fun people to be in a conversation with about mystical things. Beth Perry, Reverend Beth Perry, welcome.
Hi. Oh, it's nice to be here. Nice to see you.
I'm so glad that we're all going to learn today about a very important subject that is cause of much debate. You're going to bust some myths for us. You're going to bust three myths around biblical interpretation. And we're going to invite people to join us now or in the replay with comments and questions, any goofy gifts that come to mind as Beth teaches us and bust these myths. So I'll stop cutting you off. I will throw you the proverbial microphone and let you take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always happy to talk with you anytime about anything, but always when it's around these courses and Be a Disciple, I just love doing it. And so I'm really happy to be here. And I love this this course that we're talking about now, Leading Bible Study, Biblical Interpretation. And I think that there's a couple of these misconceptions or myths about it that would be really helpful to kind of bust down a little. For people who are thinking about taking the course, people thinking about whether or not this is the right course for them, but also for anybody who's just thinking in terms of doing biblical interpretation in any form at all, not just with us, but in any way. And I think that the first myth that that comes home to roost in the course is that biblical interpretation is just like Bible study. And I think that sometimes people come into the course with this misconception that's sort of right there in the title of the course, that these two things are the same, and they aren't exactly. Bible study is of what one does at home. The textbook and the course leader's guide, they talk about that really quickly early on in the materials, that Bible study is the thing we do at home. We do it in a place that's familiar to us. We may always sit in the same spot to study the Bible at home. Or in a group with people who are very familiar to us, maybe in a church location that's very familiar, or now it may be Zoom, right? We're really comfortable with Zoom these days. And a lot of times it's also done with scripture that we're really familiar with. So we've studied the scripture over and over, and we kind of get caught up in that repetition a little bit. I don't know if I told you this story before or not, Meg, and I apologize if I had, or anybody out there who's listening who hears it. But I led a Bible study a long time ago with a small group of people in a small congregation. And we got together week one of this study that I was so excited about. And we read the scripture about Adam and Eve. And I had some deep discussion questions ready for this discussion. And I was really excited about making those connections with people and learning more about what this story was telling us. And before they even answered one of my questions, before anything else, they started a conversation that was so clearly a familiar at-home discussion. Like they had had this discussion before, and I saw them, heard them, repeating the same phrases and the same questions and answers to each other. And they were really excited and they were really engaged and they were having a great time. But the question they were talking about was how tall was the snake? Was the snake 4 foot, 6 foot? How tall did it have to be to get an apple? I mean, isn't that amazing? But
that is amazing.
Yeah. I think it was months after that, one of the women in that group, who was in her 70s and had been a lifelong person in church, she said, no one ever made me really read the Bible before. And I've taken that as one of those little nuggets of gold that you hear from people that says, oh, this tells me something really important that I need to know about Bible study, as well as about her and her experiences. And I don't want anybody to think that I find those kind of discussions, those at-home chats, to be wrong, or that there's anything bad about them. You know, there's a lot of really odd things and interesting things and amusing things in Scripture, a lot of moving or encouraging things in the Bible. And there's nothing at all wrong with turning to Scripture for that kind of familiarity and encouragement. But the textbook that we use for this course, which is called Biblical Interpretation, a Roadmap, it says right away that at-homeness is just the beginning place for biblical interpretation. We start at home, but then we go deeper. And I think that the next misconception actually comes out of that need to go deeper. And that's because sometimes people will say, oh, I don't have enough education to do biblical interpretation. You know, people think maybe they need a seminary degree in order to do biblical interpretation. And that's just not really true. Now, the textbook was written as a seminary textbook, and it's the longest book. You can see how thick this is compared to other lay servant or lay speaker books. This one has about 250 pages, so it is long, and it's a challenging book to read because of the way in which it's structured. And I really recommend that everybody read the book before the course starts. But that structure can be challenging. I don't know how crafty you are, Meg. This is something I've never talked to you.
Not very crafty. My coworker Miranda is very, very crafty. I am crafty with words, and that is it.
You sure are. Well, you can go ask Miranda if she embroiders. There's a stitch in embroidery where you take the needle and you go forward, and then you go back, and then you go forward again, and then you come back. And that's kind of what the textbook does. It has these three premises that it starts with and it builds on, and then they take you ahead to a new idea, and they take you back to the premise, and then they go on ahead to a new idea and back to the premise. And it is kind of repetitive, but it also makes sure that we never forget what the foundation of the book is about. And those ideas could be a little bit challenging too, and that maybe gets to the third implication or misconception. But first, I want to say
for the third one.
But first, I want to say that you don't have to have any special education to do this type of biblical interpretation. Many, 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 many people use this method or methods like it without any college education at all, without any seminary training. And we work through the content of the book together in the course over the 2 weeks. So if you've read the book before the course starts, you'll be able to put it to use in little pieces. And from what I hear from participants, doing that work really makes sense, even if the book didn't 100% click for you while you were reading it.
Oh, I bet. That's so encouraging.
Good. All right. So third one. The third misconception is that there's only one way to interpret the Bible. And I think this is a big one. Yeah. And the misconception, I think, starts with our assumption that if you and I sit down to read scripture and to discuss it and to interpret it, that we will come to some agreement about what it means. That you and I will find there's one right answer to this scripture, and that it is saying the same thing. It means the same thing to you and to me and to everyone else. And that's everyone else includes 2,000 years of people who have already read that scripture before you and I ever sit down together. And all the people coming behind us who will read that scripture and find meaning in it for their lives. And anyone who does that in any language, in any translation of the Bible, in any location. It's this misconception that we will all think it means the exact same thing. That is a kind of big idea to get across and to get past. The book is based on the idea of context. And it says that there's a context in which the scripture was originally written and the meaning that it had for those first readers. That's the first context. And then the second one is the context in which we read it and find meaning in it for our lives. And that's our at-homeness, right? That's where we are in our context and finding meaning for me at my age today, which might have been different for me at my age 10, 20, 30 years ago, and might be different than I'll find 10, 20, 30 years from now, and definitely different than your context, right? And then all those other people who had all those other contexts. How many different ways have we all found meaning in the same scripture? You know, it's so challenging in some ways, but it's also so wonderful. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about Mary and Martha, and I think almost everyone comes into the course having read that story, thinking they know what it's about, right? And maybe having even done Bible studies about it before. And yet when we start posting what we think our understanding is, what we think the primary meaning of it is, the answers will be all over the place, just in 20 people sharing this discussion. So imagine when you add thousands of years in it, how many meanings there could be found. So I actually find that kind of comforting.
Yeah, very.
Do you? Yeah, good. Yeah, I got to see me and the work I'm doing, that I'm just part of a big picture, and it includes you, and it includes all the people who are listening. And there's a stream of people who have done and will done the work. And you know, some of us are going to make mistakes and make misinterpretations, and some of us are going to do something that's so profound that generations will remember what we did and the power it had for us spiritually. You know, we do our best. And when we do it in community with each other, when we are interpreting together, you know, we kind of keep ourselves from making the really, you know, big mistakes. Your interpretation informs me, mine informs you. We sort of keep moving forward together. And I think that's just very exciting and very hopeful.
Yeah. So for those that want to join you and do the work, the grappling with scripture together, what do they need to know about this upcoming course?
Well, it starts on May 17th and runs through May 28th. It is using this book, Biblical Interpretation, a Roadmap by Frederick Tiffany and Sharon Ringe. You can find it online in the used format because it's not a real new book, so it doesn't have to be very expensive at all. And you can register for it on BeADisciple's site. And I think that's
we'll put
the
link in the comments.
Pardon me?
We'll put the link to the course in the comments below this video.
Great. Thank you very much.
And did I hear you right that it's a short course? Is it a week-long course?
It's 2 weeks. It's
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
My format skills.
Yeah, that just, it ends on Friday, the second week.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. People are going to get so much out of just a 14-day course. I know we take weekends off, so a 10-day course. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. I get excited every time it's coming up.
Yes.
But then you know me, I get excited about a lot of things. I'm an easily excitable person. No.
Yes. That passion is what makes you a great instructor.
Well, thank you. I do love all the many forms of studying scripture.
Yes. Well, may I put your email below in the comments too?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Are there any questions in there to answer?
We had lots of people joining us watching, but no questions at the moment.
Okay, great. I think maybe you might be a little frozen. One of the joys of the internet, right? And Zoom, watching other people be frozen. Ah. Hopefully, those of you who are listening in can hear me. I'll just repeat.
Okay.
There we are.
Weird. So weird. I have no idea why that happened. The Zoom gremlins are telling us to hop off.
Okay.
Let me see. Oh, Deborah Thingvold. Hope I honor the pronunciation right. She says, this was a wonderful course and my first experience with Be a Disciple. Beth is an excellent instructor.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
Awesome. Okay, well, we will end before we lose each other.
All right. Take care. God bless. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.